directives which Dr. Aman says Kenyans and restaurant owners are not adhering to.
Fellow Kenyans, we have observed that since we issued specific guidelines on reopening of eateries and restaurants, some of the facilities have complied to our protocols, while others have not. I am therefore warning against non-compliance and state action that shall be taken against those who fail to follow the protocols provided by the government.
The government has also dispatched a team of health officers to Mandera County for mass testing exercise. Mandera is on a 21-day partial lockdown with 8 cases of COVID-19.
Additionally, the ministry is working with partners and has sent a health support team to Mandera to conduct targeted testing of identified hotspots. So far, a total of 241 samples have been collected from these hotspots in Mandera and have been flown back to Nairobi for analysis.
The number of COVID-19 cases countrywide now stands at 649, and 207 people have since recovered. Globally, over 4 million people have tested positive for coronavirus. Over 270,000 have died, and over 1.4 million others have recovered.
Wajir County is in a catch-22 situation after a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases, all being imported cases from Somalia. Wajir County now has 9 cases of COVID-19 and could soon be put under partial lockdown if pastoralists continue sneaking in and out of Somalia that has nearly 1,000 cases of the deadly virus. Isadin Haji reports.
Within a period of 1 week, Wajir's total number of COVID-19 positive cases has shot to 9, setting the county on a red alert. All the cases in Wajir are blamed at pastoralism, since the 9 positive cases are from pastoralists who had a recent travel to Mogadishu, Somalia for livestock trade. The long and porous border of Kenya with Somalia now sits at the center of a pandemic that crossed borders to Wajir County, the epicenter of the virus in northeastern Kenya.
This is really scary, and we're afraid that if nothing is done about the border, sooner or later, a very big number of Wajir residents will be infected.
And once the number is increasing, that shows that the situation is actually not improving. The situation is worsening. And God forbid, Wajir soon is going to be in a red alert.
Taming the dangerous border of Kenya with Somalia has for decades been a challenge. And now, just like terror, the invisible virus has interwoven with pastoralism and is almost halting a routine livestock business deep in Somalia.
It is now clear the number of cases are rising and there are people who traveled to Somalia.
Tens of people are now quarantined in the county's quarantine centers, most of them being pastoralists intercepted on their way back into the country from Somalia. Somalia now has close to 1,000 COVID-19 positive cases, and with this trend of pastoralism activities across the Kenyan-Somali border, Wajir is staring at a big threat.
The long porous border with Somalia is now the new front of infections in our country.
High rate of illiteracy and traditional beliefs have also made pastoralists defiant to government directives and are sneaking in and out of the country to carry out livestock trade. Although the county government of Wajir did sensitization activities through local FM stations, most of these pastoralists have no access to this information and guidelines due to their migratory nature.
The sensitization, I can remember, was done in Wajir Community Radio. But the question is, who can access this radio? Very few. And this Ramadan time, people have no time for radio. Now they are looking for bread winning.
There are people who do not have radios. There are people who who are not in formal settlements that cannot be reached by chiefs and all that. So I may call these areas the hard-to-reach areas. And these are the gaps that need to be addressed.
Wajir's neighboring county to the north, Mandera, is in a 21-day partial lockdown with 8 cases of COVID-19. Fears are rife that Wajir could face a similar predicament. Despite cross-border pastoralism being the root cause of the 9 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Wajir, Less testing kits in the county could also pose more threat as more people are registered in the quarantine centers and the county forced to do selective tests. Isidin Haji, TV47, Wajir County.
It is a third day since a cessation of movement in and out of Eastleigh in Nairobi and Old Town in Mombasa came into effect in a move that was meant to curb the spread of coronavirus, since the two places are the hardest hit. In Eastleigh, which is one of the economic hubs of Nairobi, most of the activities have been halted. Our reporter Eli Logova visited Eastleigh area in Nairobi to assess the impact of the directive and now reports.
This is the new norm for any person wishing to enter or leave Eastleigh area in Nairobi. Several roadblocks have been mounted as strategic points, and at each, a contingent of police officers are seen manning them to ensure the directive is implemented to the letter, and only those with valid permits or essential service providers are allowed to access the restricted area. From a look on their faces, most residents here are seemingly not satisfied with the existing situation and are now crying foul as their normal businesses are brought to a standstill.
Ni mtu wa bonda anafanyia Eastleigh, hata hakuna wateja wa kubeba saa hii, ndio hatuwezi toka zaidi ya Eastleigh. Bado tunaendelea kukumbwa na janga la njaa na tumefungiwa, hakuna popote tunaweza enda tupate chakula. Tunazunguka hapa tu Eastleigh.
Wakikuja kupima tuko tayari, lakini ni watupime tuendelee na kazi. Lakini sasa tunafungiwa, tunaenda wapi? Kazi hatufanyi, chakula hatukuli. Tunahangaika, tunakaa huko mitaani kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni. Wewe tembelea rafiki yako upande hii, wala upande hii, na sehemu zile zingine zote zinaendelea. Shida iko hapo.
The residents here and those that depend on Eastleigh for their businesses are now calling upon the government to move in and provide them with relief food, since they have no other means of earning a living.
Dali watu angalia sisi maslahi yetu, sisi tunahangaika, watu wengi wanalala na njaa saa hii. Saa hii maisha imekuwa ngumu kabisa. Huwezi ingia, huwezi toka. Na tegemeo letu ni huku Eastleigh. Tunauliza serikali ya Uhuru wakiwa na Ruto, tafadhali watu angalia sisi wananchi. Sisi wananchi wa chini tunateseka kabisa. Tumehangaika ya kutosha. Hakuna chakula. Msaada wanaletwa kwa vijiji huko, sisi wengine hatupati. Kuna wenye wanatumiwa pesa kwa simu, na ni wanatumia pesa kwa simu ni wale wenye wako na maploti, wenye wako na mali. Na sisi wenye wanyonge hatuna, tunahangaika, tunateseka na watoto. Watoto wanashinda wakilia juu ya njaa. Na huku Eastleigh kulikuwa kunatusaidia sisi. Tutafanya nini sasa? Tunataka watuangalie sisi wa mama, kama ni ngumu basi sisi watu wenye tulitoka mashambani watufungulie njia turudi nyumbani.
With the area remaining under partial lockdown for the next 12 days, the residents here will be forced to live with the situation unless the government moves in with any aid. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Now moving on to some good news. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has today morning launched the distribution of approximately 8.5 tons of food to cushion the vulnerable families in Mukuru kwa Ruben. Matiang'i said the government is sourcing for more funds to increase the number of the relief food beneficiaries from the recent 250,000 families countrywide.
Residents of Mukuru kwa Jenga have a reason to smile tonight after Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i launched a food distribution program to cushion community from hunger during the COVID-19 pandemic. CS Matiang'i, accompanied by a host of other leaders, made a passionate appeal to Kenyans to support the poor families during the COVID-19 pandemic.
This is the time to support each other, because this is the time to be really family, to work as a family.
Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja requested Nyumba Kumi leaders tasked with supervising the distribution of food to ensure that the food will only benefit the vulnerable.
So hii muende mpeane vizuri kwa upole, pole nyinyi ndio viongozi. Let's help, mfikirie yule mtu. Kama uko nayo pia uko na mbili, saidia yule jirani yako ambaye hajapata.
Nairobi Women Representative Esther Passaris also urged landlords not to evict tenants who might be late with rent payments as the pandemic continues to ravage the economy.
Kindly, this is not the time for eviction. If your tenant cannot pay, negotiate, understand the situation that they are found. Because many tenants have done that.
CS Matiang'i announced plans to upgrade Mukuru kwa Jenga, with a schedule expected to be issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta at a later date. The food packages distributed comprised maize flour, rice and cooking oil.
The president has been keen to see whether we can actually come up with a health facility in Mukuru kwa Jenga to address the needs of the residents of Mukuru kwa Jenga.
Zablon Macharia, TV47, Nairobi.
The family of Kombe Charo Kazungu and his wife Mishi Kitsao, who delivered quadruplets at the Kilifi District Hospital, has received donations of essential products and a house from Kilifi County Governor Amason Kingi. The family is also set to start a business once Mrs. Kazungu is strong enough to move about.
On March 17th this year, Mishi Kitsao delivered 4 babies in this one-roomed, mud-walled and grass-thatched house in Kaloleni, Kilifi County, before she was rushed to hospital together with the quadruplets. The baby girls were all born weighing less than 1.5 kilograms. Kitsao and her husband had 3 children before her latest delivery. Their previous house was brought down by heavy rains in December last year. But on Friday, they moved to a brand new house courtesy of the county government of Kilifi.
Nimejitolea kwamba tutamjengea nyumba japo ndogo angalau ya room 2 na veranda, ili akitoka hapo hospitali awe anaweza kupeleka wale matoto katika mazingira ambayo anaweza kuwalea pasipo kuwaweka katika hatari ya kiafya.
Mwanavua Boga, the nurse who accompanied the couple and their children to their new home, says they will make regular visits to ensure that the babies are safe, especially during this period when the country is battling the COVID-19 pandemic.
Huyu mama anahitaji follow up ya karibu sana. Hata kama ni visitation maybe once a week, angalia watoto wake wanaendelea vipi. Alafu kwa sababu hii janga ya corona, hawa watoto wanahitaji kupata chanjo in June. Next chanjo yao iko June. Lazima tuangalie hii chanjo watapata vipi. Hilo ni swala ambalo pia lazima liangaziwe.
Governor Kingi has also pledged to help the family start a business to enable them fend for their now big family.
Baada ya kuwa amepona vizuri na anaweza kufanya biashara yoyote, pia tumemwambia kwamba achague biashara ile anaweza kufanya kule mashinani, na nitampatia hela ambayo itamsaidia kuanzisha ile biashara yeye na bwanake.
Tracy Mokami, TV47.
That story brings us to our first break, and at this point we'd love to take a short break, but don't go away. When we get back, we'll be back with more news.
Mox Limited urges all citizens to practice the set guidelines to help curb the spread of COVID-19. Please stay home as much as possible, practice social distancing measures, wash your hands, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and always wear a face mask while in public places. Komesha Corona. Stay home, stay safe. Mox Limited, your construction caring partner.
exciting world of M-Truck Solutions, your trusted provider for bulk SMSs. We also offer API integrations for all your communication and payment needs. We also provide you with tailor-made payment getaway solution to receive and disperse cash quickly, affordable and securely. Let us expand your reach and connectivity on USSD, SMS and voice today. Call us on 0723 030 030 or email hello@mtruck.limited.co.ke. For more details, visit our website www.mtrucklimited.co.ke.
Sarma Enterprises Limited. We are your trusted and reliable supplier of quality timber products, construction material suppliers, which are river sand, ballast, building stones. Visit our website on www.sarma.co.ke. Sarma Enterprises Limited. Quality materials for quality structures.
Mtu akikuuliza mwambie nyumba yako yajificha kumbavuni.
Unajua sasa ingine ndo sijui kwa nini wanakusikiza hizi plans zako.
Hebu because I am your mother. Yaani huyo Saida akikosea yeye ni malaumu. Lakini watu wengine wote wakikosea inakuwa ni World War 3.
You need me in this. You need me, man. Unanihitaji. You need me.
Mimi najua pale nje dunia ita.
Hao ni watoto ama ni kokoto?
Kama Saida, sio?
Uchovu wa fikra, mwili, akili.
Wazena, usichezee thamani yangu, wasikia? Makuzi yangu lazima raundi hii utalipa.
All right, thank you very much for staying with us right here on TV 47 for Saturday Night News. Now, moving on, nearly 60,000 people have been displaced by floods in at least 29 counties. The most affected counties are Tana River, Bungoma, Busia, Kisumu, Elgeyo Marakwet, and West Pokot. Since the long rain started, at least 194 people have been killed by the floods or landslides, and the death toll could rise if people living in low-lying areas that are prone to floods do not heed to the calls to move to safer grounds. In some counties, the humanitarian situation is so dire as those affected do not have food and shelter. Tonight, I'm joined by Peter Abuao, the Communications and Public Relations Manager at the Red Cross Society, by way of Skype to help us appreciate the extent of damage and devastation caused by the floods. Kenya Red Cross Society, good evening.
Good evening, Allan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us, Peter.
Thank you.
All right, now let's just get into it. Now, could you kindly clarify to us if the number of those affected run into the tens of thousands? What does this look like?
Yes, Allan, I heard in your intro you said 60,000. The number is actually over 100,000.
Yeah.
And as we speak, the number is around 130,000. That is an estimate of about 25,000 households.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of... okay, sorry, just go on.
Yeah, I was saying that in terms of the counties affected, we're now over 30 counties, yes. But the hardest hit are counties in Western Kenya.
All right.
That is Kisumu, Siaya, Busia, Homa Bay, and Migori, especially Victoria.
Okay.
And of course, in the North Rift, you have Elgeyo Marakwet.
All right.
And West Port that have experienced mostly the landslides. In the coastal region, you have Tana River, and of course today Garissa has also been affected with the flood. This evening, many people are still being evacuated from their houses.
All right.
Central is also affected. In Murang'a particularly has experienced sporadic landslides and mudslides that a number of people have already been evacuated. So you're right, 30 counties have now been affected.
Okay.
There are many people now living either in camps or in schools.
Okay. Now, in terms of a humanitarian crisis, how bad of a situation is it?
Yes, the humanitarian situation is bad, and it can only get worse because, as you are aware, first of all, we're also dealing with the situation of COVID in the country, and it's not the best time for people to be crowding in camps or being forced to move into houses with their relatives, which are already full anyway. So the humanitarian situation is worse. People are living in camps. It is continuing to rain. More people continue to be displaced every day.
All right. Now, the floods have been affecting different areas differently. So could you kindly tell us which areas have been severely affected and how have they been affected?
Yeah, so I started earlier by talking about counties around Lake Victoria. These ones are the counties that are hardest hit. Of the 25,000 households that have been displaced, at least 15,000 are from these counties. This is Kisumu, Busia, Siaya, and Homa Bay especially, and Migori as well. So those ones are the ones that have the majority of the people living in camps. For example, in Nyando County, in Kisumu, almost the entire county, has been affected by floods. And then, of course, in Busia, you have Budalangi and Bumala, in which almost entire sub-counties have been affected. And this is because of the two large rivers that flow in those counties. That is, in Kisumu, you have River Nyando.
Yes.
And in Siaya, you have River Nzoia. Those are the rivers that have caused the majority of flooding. Of course, around the lake, we also have villages that have received what we call backflows from the lake, because when the lake fills up so much, then there is water flowing into nearby villages and displacing people. So those are the counties that have been worst affected. And then, of course, recently, because of the landslides in West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet, where you had quite many deaths over there.
Okay, now the floods have definitely destroyed roads that Red Cross used to access these different areas. What other means has Red Cross employed to get assistance to the needy in this time, in the event that the roads have been destroyed?
Yes, so actually in Budalangi and Nyando, as you would have seen, some of our volunteers have had to use boats to rescue people.
Yes.
So largely around the lake, it's been use of small boats to rescue people and deliver relief. It's a complicated situation, as you put it, because people cannot get to hospital, especially late. We also have a curfew in place. So this actually complicates the rescue process, because if people need services, then there's a lot of limitation at the moment.
Okay, now let's talk about the floods. They've been occurring for quite some time. Do you see the situation getting better anytime soon?
Well, it's probably an action by the multiple stakeholders that are involved in this process. We're talking about governments at both the national and the county level.
Yes.
We need to, and there are discussions going on to find a lasting solution. But as you are aware, these people are living on their land, and in the land issue in Kenya is well known. So most of these people, even after they move, that is where their land is. So often they would want to go back. So those are the discussions that we are engaging government with to see how we can find a lasting solution, whether some of these people can find alternative land, so that this does not become a recurring problem.
Okay. Now, in previous instances when flood situations have been dealt with, relocation is a very big part of the discussion, because it's not easy to convince somebody to leave their home and relocate to a new space. This year, have you dealt with such cases, or what has been the situation with regards to moving to a safer ground when the people have been told to do so?
Yeah, so we've worked very closely with the national government administration agencies. These are the chiefs and the sub-chiefs and the county commissioners in those regions to advise people early.
Yes.
We also, receive weather predictions and forecasts from the Kenya Meteorological Department.
Yeah.
And we use this to inform communities that their areas could be affected. And we send out messages using the mobile telephone companies, and our volunteers go around advising people on what to do.
Yes.
So a good number of people actually heed these warnings and move. But of course, you'll get pockets of resistance, and this intensifies the kind of damages that we have. But largely, people have begun to comply because
Yes.
After you've experienced this flood,
Yes.
you wouldn't want to lose life and property again.
Okay.
So this has been happening. For what we are doing really is we are in the response period, rescuing people from floods, providing immediate relief, and then after that we'll begin to discuss what long-term measures we can do to support people who have lost their houses completely. How can we support them to rebuild and then move on from the period of flooding once the rainy season has ended?
Okay, let's talk about food security. The floods have destroyed large tracts of land, especially rice fields, which was already threatened before even the floods came about. Now, there's also been words from the experts who've said that they're seeing another second invasion of the locusts, which could also threaten the food security further. From where you're sitting from, are we prepared for such a scenario?
I wouldn't want to comment much about repairing, but of course you're right that there are the effects of both floods and locusts.
Yes,
is an issue of great concern to Kenya as of now.
Yeah.
So and I know that the Ministry of Agriculture and and FAO are actively involved, especially with the flood response.
Yes.
With the locust response in the eastern part of the country. The same goes for the western part, which is for now is hardest hit by flood. So there are discussions, there are preparations going on, and we hope that we can minimize the impact of these twin events. So it calls for action from all stakeholders to make sure that we can prepare, we can deal with it now, and that when the floods are over, we can actually prepare communities to be safeguarded from losing their livelihood so much.
All right. Now, when the floods came about, different things happened, and shelter is a big and critical bit of this equation because people are losing their homes, and you've called upon the county governments and the government to continue partnering with you in terms of offering shelter for these people who've relocated to different places. What's the latest on that?
I think for now, the focus really now is to make sure that these people are safe.
Yes.
So those that are currently experiencing floods have to be moved temporarily to a place where they can feel safe, they can be provided with relief,
All right.
and that can be guaranteed. After that, then we begin to discuss how to restore shelter for those that have lost. And we have done this before. In 2018 and 2019,
Yes.
we supported construction of shelter for the floods that hit the country in 2018. And just 2 days ago, we were in West Pokot,
Okay.
giving houses to persons who were displaced in last year's landslides in that part of the region.
Yes.
So these are discussions that we will take up with the county governments and other stakeholders to ensure that we can support these people, rebuild shelter, and move back to some sort of permanent places to stay.
All right. Now, just from conversations that I've been having with my colleagues and some of my friends, the biggest comment that comes out of those conversations is that why does Kenya always have to deal with the same situation year in, year out when it comes to floods? And people will talk of why don't they raise the levels of the dams and all that that comes with the situation. Why do you think it's always the same story when it comes to floods?
Yes, I think it's a question of just multiple agencies, working closely, and these discussions will go on. I know that the problem is big. Dikes have been built in other places, but sometimes the rain is too much. But we do hope that going forward, of course, these things will continue to improve. Working closely with the two levels of government and other agencies to really build our level of preparedness to predict and be able to caution people from perennial, because some of these people have been out of their homes perennially.
Yes.
Like the ones in Western Kenya, they were just beginning to move back into their homes after the floods that extended into January this year.
Okay.
So this is quite unfortunate, but we believe that working together we can, of course, find a lasting solution.
All right, Peter, one last question before I let you go. The heavy rains are usually expected to end in May. What is the situation for this year? When do you see this ending or slowing down a bit?
Well, projections from the Kenya Meteorological Department they have indicated that we may have a slowdown towards the end of this month, and of course, this will be updated as we move towards the end of the month. So I think for us is to just keep monitoring what the weather forecasts are saying from especially the Kenya Meteorological Department to be able to work with that and support communities better. But we hope that the rains will slow down as we get towards the end of May.
All right, Peter, well, thank you very much for your time this evening.
And thank you for having me.
All right. That was Peter Abwao, the communications manager and PR manager, for the Kenya Red Cross Society, giving us insights on what is with the situation regarding the floods in Kenya. Now, let's continue with other stories. On Monday, a Kenyan plane, let me just have a look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short break. When we get back, we'll be back with the news.
Mox Limited urges all citizens to practice the set guidelines to help curb the spread of COVID-19. Please stay home as much as possible, practice social distancing measures, wash your hands, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and always wear a face mask while in public places. Komesha Corona. Stay home, stay safe. Mox Limited, your construction caring partner.
Ladies and gentlemen, our apologies for that slight technical hitch that we experienced from our end, but I believe that has been sorted out. Let's continue. On Monday, a Kenyan plane that was delivering humanitarian aid was shot down in Somalia, and the Kenyan government demanded answers from the Somalia counterparts. Now, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces in Somalia have taken responsibility for the plane crash that claimed the lives of 6 Kenyans. Lexi Kimani with more.
When a Kenyan cargo plane was shot down in Somalia on Monday, the Kenyan government requested the African Union mission in Somalia to conduct an investigation on the cause of the crash. AMISOM expressed its heartfelt condolences to the families of those who perished in the plane crash on Monday and promised to conduct a thorough investigation into the matter. Today, 5 days after the crash, Ethiopian troops have admitted to shooting down the plane. According to Sector 3 Commander Brigadier General Alemo Ayene, there was no information that the plane was scheduled to fly to Badele, and there was no way that the troops could communicate with the vessel to verify its identity. The Ethiopian troops suspected Al-Shabaab was trying to conduct a suicide mission since the aircraft was flying out of the usual site and it was repeatedly closer to the ground. AMISOM headquarters say that the aircraft 5Y-AXO approached the airstrip in the unusual west-east movement as opposed to the usual east-west when landing. It however remains unclear why the Ethiopian forces were not aware of the flight despite the aircraft being authorized by the Somali Civic Authority to fly from Mogadishu to Baidoa and back. Lexi Kimani, TV47, Nairobi.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me right here on Saturday Night News. But at this point, we'd love to come to the end of our bulletin. I've been your host, Allan Owino, but just before we wrap up this, I'd love to see what we have going on social media platforms. And we can see different messages from Nefat Musheru saying, I'm locked in. Thank you very much. James Audi as well is also locked in and watching from wherever he is. Thank you very much for contributing on our bulletin, but that's all we had for you this Saturday. Until next time, be good and stay safe.